Hi everyone, welcome to the CZ Armor channel. What you're looking at here today are two different guns. This is a heavily modified for competition SPO1 chamber in 9mm. This is a CZ-75 in 45, also modified for competition. And you might be wondering, like, what am I going to talk about? Like, these guns are really have nothing to do with each other at this point. But actually, I'm going to talk about something common across these two guns and more focused on an issue that happens when you install a certain kit of aftermarket parts as a way to upgrade the gun. There's an issue that shows up because these guns both have firing pin blocks, and then there's a problem I already identified. It doesn't always happen, but it happens often enough that I thought would be a good idea to put a video together about it and hopefully give you some information how to address that problem. Also, enjoy this video without any interruption, advertisement, anything, any break whatsoever, because I'm not even trying to put this for monetization. So enjoy. All right. So we're talking about models, CZ models that have a firing pin block. So this excludes Shadow 1, Shadow 2, Shadow Compact, Shadow 2 Compact, sorry, A01LD, A01 Compact, all those more, the whole Tactical Sports series. That's all kind of a competition oriented from the factory, so they don't have a firing pin block. You won't have that problem, the problem that we're going to talk about here. But basically, what I'm talking about here is this. So if you look at the back here, and this gun is completely unloaded, there's nothing in the magwell, chamber is empty, so I'm going to point at myself, which freak you out and freaks me out too, to be honest, but it's okay. It will be the way to show you on camera here what I'm talking about. I wanted to look at this little shiny pin that is right here. It's like a pin, it's like a lever. This is your lifter arm, firing pin block lifter arm. Every time you pull the trigger, before the hammer falls, this arm, this part needs to raise. It needs to go up. When it goes up, it depresses the firing pin block and then allows your firing pin to travel completely all the way to the front and hit your primer. If this doesn't move, if this doesn't go up, then your firing pin block is not depressed and it will do its job and block the firing pin. This is there for protection. If you drop a gun or there's any impact on the gun and the firing pin moves by inertia forward, or even if the hammer falls, if you're not pulling the trigger, this lifter arm is not going to raise. It's not going to depress your firing pin block. Your firing pin is not going to hit the primer. The gun is not going to fire. So as we press the trigger here, can you see this moving? That you can see that little arm moving up and down here. All right, and this is how it's designed to be. Okay, it's in single action. I'm pulling the trigger. The first thing my trigger bar catches is the lifter arm, raises the lifter arm all the way up, and now it will break. Perfect. Then as the trigger reset, let me show you again. The lifter arm returns to the original position. So it lifts, hammer breaks. Now as I release the trigger, you see that arm going down. Perfect. That's working as designed. Here's a problem. And I'm going to put an O-ring here because I explained this in another video, but always good to reinforce. You should not dry fire CZ guns with a firing pin block unless you have something protecting your firing pin or a snap cap or something in your chamber that will protect that firing pin to go all the way and hit the firing pin, hit this pin here, the firing pin retaining pin. If nothing is protecting and there's nothing in the chamber, your firing pin is going to go forward too much, hit this pin enough times. This pin is just a roll pin. Originally, it will break or bend, and this will make your gun stop operating normally. So just a hint, put an O-ring here like I did now, and you'll be fine. You can put the trigger now as many times as you want. So if I go back there, now I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna reset the gun. I'm going to reset, and you see what is going to happen here. So normal reset, go up, it's reset, it's fine. If I go back there, my firing pin, the lifter arm is moving again, perfect. Now look at what happens here. And again, this gun has been modified. This is not the original hammer, sear, lifter arm, everything, all the ignition key, trigger, everything in this gun has been modified. It's installed with aftermarket parts. Originally, you're not going to be able to reproduce this. If this is a stock gun, you cannot reproduce what I'm about to show you. So if I reset now, I keep my finger pressing the trigger, and I go slowly on the reset now. Okay, I went too fast. I need to go very slow. Try to get this on camera for you. Very slowly here. Okay, I'm catching a wall already. There's something hard here. If I pull the trigger, the hammer is gonna fall right now. So I'm calling this a false reset. I don't know if that's the name for this, but I just made it up, and I think it makes sense because it feels like a reset. The trigger is ready to be pulled and it's ready to drop my hammer, but I'm gonna turn the gun for you again, the back for you, so you can see that lifter arm again. Let me see if I can hold. Oh, damn it. Let me try again because it's hard for me to catch that wall. No, it's hard for me to catch that wall and then turn the gun around for you to see what happens to the lifter arm. One more time. Okay, it's there. So I want to look at that little lever on the side that's supposed to raise. Look at that. Hammer fall, it did not raise. Now I'm gonna let the trigger go all the way to the reset in double, and you see that the lever remains down. So that's a problem. That's a big problem, because if you're shooting out there and this happens, what would happen is that hammer would fall and the gun is just not gonna go bang. It's not gonna fire around. If you're in the middle of a stage shooting a match or something like this, a competition under pressure, and you're shooting bang bang bang, click, you're just gonna rack and keep going, and you're going to assume it was a light strike. Then if you can recover that round, you see that the primer actually has never been touched. So it isn't really a light strike, right? So there's two problems here. You got a false reset and you got a false positive on light strike, which might make you start addressing different things in the gun to fix, the light strike issue, when it really isn't the problem. Okay, let me try to show you why this is happening in this 97 here. I'm gonna throw the slide off. Might be easy, might be a little bit complicated to show this on camera, but let's try. See if I can get the camera here right on top of the gun so you can see it. All right, maybe this will work. We'll see. So as you can see here, it's cocked, hammer's cocked, so this is in single action. And as I pull the trigger, that little lever that we talked about before, right here, the lifter arm is moving. Perfect, as it was designed to be, okay? So to simulate a reset without the slide is a little bit more complicated, and it also behaves a little bit differently. So I don't know if I'm gonna be able to simulate exactly what was happening, but I'll explain to you what is supposed to happen here and what was exactly happening. So as I put this in single action again, to simulate a reset, I'm gonna lower the trigger bar, push the trigger bar down, pull the trigger, then the hammer doesn't fall, because this is like the hammer just falls, slide racked, and your hammer's cocked again, while you still have the trigger pull. Now as you go back, it will reset. You heard that? That's the reset. Now if I pull up and down, the lifter arm is working, everything is working as designed. So what was happening here is I pushed that trigger bar down again, goes back, and it's important for you to understand what happens here when I'm pushing that trigger bar down, right? So when I push the trigger bar down, first, this would be the slide. The slide would cause that action, would make that happen, right? If you look at the slide on this side here, for instance, you have this notch. This notch here is what makes the trigger bar come up, right? It adds clearance so the trigger bar can go up. While this notch is not aligned with these two bumps here that you have on each side of the trigger bar, one here, then you would assume that those bumps are riding in this area of the slide, which is taller than this, and then we'll push the trigger bar down. So that's what prevents the gun to fire out of the battery. When the slide is riding back and forth, your trigger bar is actually riding on these taller areas of the slide, preventing your trigger, basically disabling your trigger, so you won't be able to pull the trigger again until that bump comes to this area, and it goes up and it resets again. So that's your reset mechanism, if you will, in a simple way. Okay, right, there you go. This is better. That's the bump. That's the higher area of the slide. Okay, cool. Now that you understand that, I'm going to push it down, simulating that bump in my trigger bar. This bump right here is riding on a taller area of the slide, and then it's going to push it down, and it dives. What happens here, it dives under my sear cage. So my trigger bar now, it's riding under the sear cage. It's not engaging with the sear or the lifter arm or anything. Now, as I let it go back, it will, I'm going to try to simulate the false reset now, see if I can do that with the other hand. As I go back slowly, you can see the trigger bar moving. Okay, there you go. It caught something now. It's hard. If I pull the trigger now, which I really can't because I'm not going to risk breaking the frame or the on my sear cage here, I'm put something between here to protect it. I'm going to put a piece of foam here. All right, I wanted to look at this, the lifter arm. Remember, this needs to be raised in order to depress the firing pin block and let the firing pin hit the primer. I'm going to pull the trigger. Oh, it escaped. Pull the trigger again. I don't know if the foam is in front of it or anything. But look, I can even simulate. I can take the foam out of the way here, hopefully, without it's cocked the trigger again. And as I'm pulling the trigger, I'm going to let my trigger go all the way to the front again and reset and double. And you're going to notice that the lifter arm is not moving. See that? It reset all the way and it didn't move. Now, it's supposed to be moving like this. So that's what the problem is. Okay, now that we understand what the problem is, let me show you kind of a different view here. Inside, and I really can't simulate this just taking the gun apart, but this is a trigger bar out of the gun, and that's your sear. Let me show you a sear. That's a sear. So the way it works is the trigger, this area here in the trigger bar, this little depression that you have on each side here, will catch on the sear arm underneath. Like the sear has basically two arms here. The one at the top for you here is the one that engages with the safety when the safety is on, so it prevents the sear to fall. The one at the bottom is your arm that will engage with the trigger bar. And as your trigger bar goes back, see how it moves the sear back? It moves the sear up, and moving the sear up releases the hammer, right? If you gotta, let me have a hammer here too. So I'm get one without a disconnector. Okay, hopefully this is making sense to you, but hammer, sear, they engage like this. When the sear goes up, it lets the hammer fall forward. Does it make sense? So sear is engaged with the hammer like that. Sear goes up, releases the hammer to fall. And it goes up basically with the action of the trigger bar, catching that little arm in the bottom here, and then pushing it back. That's how this works. So what's happening here is basically, as my trigger bar dives underneath the sear cage, underneath the sear cage, you wouldn't have this arm, the sear arm, but you also have the lifter arm lever that goes underneath. So the trigger bar catches both sides, like one side catch the sear, the other side catch the lifter arm. They're supposed to have timed correctly in sync. So when you're supposed to be actually engaging the lifter arm first, and then there's no way for you to hit that sear, engage the sear without the lifter arm being raised. So what's happening here is, for some reason, that timing is wrong, and that sear is actually being caught by the sear arm is actually being caught by the trigger bar before the trigger bar is able to engage with the lifter arm. So what I suspected, and I confirmed the suspect here, and that's why this SPO1 that I haven't talked about is here, because this has just been fixed, is that the arm, and again, this is an aftermarket sear, not the original one. And we're going to look into this, but what I suspected was that the arm of the sear underneath here, where it engaged with the trigger bar, it's kind of not exact the same dimension as the stock sear. So in my view, what I suspected was that it has to be a little longer, because the trigger bar is not up yet completely to reset, but is already catching. That's when you feel that, when I feel that wall, it's the trigger bar already catching that sear, but it's not high enough yet to catch the the lifter arm, right? The firing pin block lifter arm. So let's confirm that theory. If I got the original sear and I'm gonna get an aftermarket sear out of the bag, brand new. So that's the aftermarket sear I'm talking about, and this is the original sear. They are virtually identical except for a few reasons. One of them is a pretty cool idea. This one has a set screw, as you can see here. This is there because the hammer, the aftermarket hammer that normally comes together with this sear, people get the kit together, it changed the angle at which the sear stay up once the hammer is cocked. So with that angle change, what causes, if you use the OEM sear, it will prevent your sear to engage with the safety lever. So you would need to either fit the safety or refit the sear to it. So to prevent that, or to go around that, they had this brilliant idea of making a little hole here at the arm of the sear that engages with the safety and put a set screw. So you can adjust this distance here, actually. You can adjust this distance here, the length here, to where it needs to be in order for the safety to engage and the safety to work normally. So it's a way to do it without the need of, having a gunsmith filing the sear or fitting the safety or anything like that. Really good idea. But we're not here to talk about this. We're here to talk about the other difference this has with the OEM one. So if I put them side by side, side by side, pretty close to each other. The issue that I'm talking about here, again, on those two levers, and you have these two levers here too. One engages the safety, the other engages the trigger bar underneath it. So if I measure the distance, if I measure how long that leg that engages the trigger bar is on the OEM, let's see what he got. So that's 0. I'm going to measure from the bottom of the hole to the bottom of the leg. And what I get here is about 1875. I can do this. About 1875 of an inch. So if I go here on the aftermarket one and do the same measurement, I got a 1955. A 1940 here showing up, but adjust that. There you go, 1975. Something between 1955 and 1975 of an inch. So there's a good, what was the other one? 1870 to 1970, about that, 1950. So about 8 thousandths to 10 thousandths of an inch difference. That's significant. That's kind of a, long enough to cause that problem, to make the trigger bar catch that arm of the sear prematurely. So all we have to do, and I proved this because that's what I did to this one, and I cannot reproduce the problem in this one anymore. What we have to do is then take material off this area here, the bottom of the leg. What you want is shorten this leg of the sear. This leg right here, you want this to be shorter, just like I measured the OEM. You want this to be shorter about 7 to 8 thousandths, or maybe a little bit more, until you get close to the dimension of the OEM. I did that on this gun, and I can no longer reproduce the problem. So let me put this 97 aside. I got my O-ring there already, so I can pull this trigger as many times as I want, no issue. So look, I reset, I go back now. Even if I go very slowly, I'm trying to catch anything here, it only does when it resets. There's nothing to catch there. Even if I go really, really slow, trying to go back and forth to see if anything, it doesn't. It just resets. It's just a true reset, so the false reset is gone. This gun was behaving exactly the same way as that 97B before. So you can see here, I'll show you the back. You can see the lifter arm is moving, and it will move the whole time. So, and by the way, I know you'll be curious about this. The modifications on that 97B is basically the Cajun Gun Pro Kit. The complete Pro Kit plus a mag weld, and it's Cerakoted in obviously Cerakoted in copper as well. This SPO1 This has the impact machine slide. So this beautiful slide without a front sight, and already cut for a Hollow Sun 507 competitor, which is what we have here. It has a also Cajun gun kit here, with a difference that this is not a Cajun gun trigger. This is the Ementech semi-flat trigger and the CZ custom grip panels and mag well. So that's basically what was done to this SPO1. It weighs about 41 ounces, so pretty close to a Shadow 2. Shadow 2 is about 43. So this is about pretty close to a Shadow 2 in weight. It just handles great. But yeah, so this is what I wanted to explain, how to address that false reset issue. I hope this has been useful, informational to you. And again, if you've been watching this video until now, you notice there's no advertisement, nothing, no break, no interruptions. So you're welcome, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.